Okay, so at the beginning of the semester, when I was looking through your all's course calendar and your lecture schedule with Miss Simpson, I was like, I do not know what to lecture on. I'm a peds person. That's my specialty. I love peds. That's what I know about. So I was looking through, and I saw eating disorders, and I was like, oh, well, I'll pick that because I've had one. I'm very, very open about sharing my story, so if it's okay, I'll share it with you all. I share it a lot, and I typically share it in the hopes of helping others. I actually mentor a few younger girls myself, so I'm pretty used to telling my story. I could stand up here the whole time and just talk about me, but I won't. So it kind of started way back, and I've had weight issues on and off my whole life. So in first grade, these used to be a thing. I don't know if they're still a thing now. Like the time test where you had to do as many addition and subtraction as you could in so many minutes, whatever. Well, this one had 100 questions on it. It was addition and subtraction. And I was able to get all 100 done, and I only missed one. Well, my teacher at the time went to our church, so she was also a family friend. She called my mom to tell her how good I'd done. She's like, I've never had anyone finish all 100, and she only missed one. She done great. Well, instead of being happy, it broke me. Like, it absolutely broke me as a 6-year-old. All I could focus on is that I missed one. As a 6-year-old, I made myself redo that same math problem every single day. It got to be so bad that my mom took me to the doctor and was like, she's not right, something is wrong with her. All my doctor said was that I was going to be a smart kid and probably end up in the medical field. And that's all that came of that appointment. About a year later in 2nd grade, that was probably the only hard year of school I had. My grandmother, who lived in Alabama, she ended up passing away, but she was very, very sick. She didn't have an advocate, so my parents went to Alabama a lot. They were in Alabama that year more than they were here at home. And I was and still am a mama's girl, so that was really hard for me. And then in 2nd grade, my teacher, and this should have never happened, but I was too young to know that it was wrong, made everybody in the class weigh in front of everybody. So I remember the little girl beside of me, she weighed 64 pounds, and then I weighed 98. And then, yeah, I was a chunky kid. Like, you can look back and see pictures, and like now I knew I was chunky. Now I do. But before that moment, I didn't know I was fat. But that very moment made me know I was fat and I was different. One other boy in the class weighed 99 pounds, and we've become best friends. We segregated ourselves. We only talked to each other the rest of the year. And like I said, I was too young to know that what she did was wrong. So fast forward on the middle school. Well, throughout the rest of elementary school, I was a really, really good student, really good kid, never done anything wrong. One time the teacher told me that I washed my hands too long, and I cried because I was such a good kid. Like, I didn't want to mess up at all. Always been a perfectionist as far back as I can remember. So going into middle school, I played 4 sports in middle school, so I was really, really active. I played volleyball, basketball, soccer, and softball, so my activity level wasn't an issue. It was literally on the go all the time. But if anybody has kids or played sports yourself, especially travel ball, you know that you're eating what you can get as quick as you can because you got to go from here to here and get your homework done, so we ate a lot of fast food. In 7th grade, I decided that I wanted to lose some weight. And I told my parents, and they were very encouraging, and they wanted to lose some weight as well, so we changed our eating habits. And I lost weight effectively and healthily. Is that a word? Healthily? I done it the healthy way. Again, throughout middle school, I got the top student award every single year. My academics were top notch. That's what I could control. Since 1st grade, I could control my academics, and I could be good at it. Moving on to high school, had a great, great high school experience. Loved everything about it. Played 3 sports. I had a lot of friends. Had friends in band. Had friends that did cheerleading. I was homecoming, sports queen, all that. Just a really good experience. Put on a little bit of weight. I went through puberty a little later than most girls, so when you go through puberty, you get them little curves, but nothing bad. I put on a little weight. Again, I graduated valedictorian. Every single class I took, I got the academic award in. The lowest grade I made in high school ever was a 99. That was my control. And in high school, people don't study, so I learned quickly I could outwork them and then outperform them. If I put the effort in, I got the effort out, and other people were just too lazy to do it. So that was my control. So then, as a senior in high school, I got accepted into UT's nursing program. So I moved to Knoxville for 5 years after I graduated. And I had a great college experience. I love the University of Tennessee. We played in the Sweet 16 tonight, and I can't even think about it. I get so nervous, and I got my orange and white on. But I really did have a really good college experience. But this is a big university with literally thousands of people, hundreds of people, like in a class like this, hundreds of people. And nursing school is hard. You all know that. So I very quickly lost the control that I once had over my academics. Did I do good in school? Yeah, I done great in school, but I didn't have that control that I once had. I remember as part of their BSN, you had to take 3 chemistries. And I remember the first, chemistry's not my thing. Biology all day, chemistry, no. So I took that chemistry class and I literally thought I was going to fail. So when I got my grade back, it was a B, and I cried because I was so happy. Everybody's like, who are you? Mom's like, where is my child? Because I thought I was going to fail. So the B was like, that was the best grade I ever got. So I lost control, but I was able to fill that void pretty easily. I made a lot of friends, just had a really good college experience, had so much fun in college. We went to all the football games, all the basketball games, so I filled that void. Fast forward to second semester, sophomore year, an absolute tragedy happened to my family. I'm not going to share that just because that's their story as well, and I respect their boundaries, but it absolutely flipped their world and my world upside down. When that happened, I craved control. I needed that control that I had lost. Also, kind of before this, I got the freshman 15, especially when you go from playing 3 sports to no sports. So I was already kind of working out, already eating better, taking better care of myself. But when this tragedy happened, that's what I latched onto. I needed to control something, and that is what I could control. So I started controlling what was going into my body. I started doing extreme calorie restriction. I wouldn't let myself eat more than 500 calories a day, but most of the time it was around 200. And that was a good day for me because I ate less than the 500. That was a good day. Before this as well, I was training for a marathon, and I never stopped doing this. So I was eating very little and running 16 plus miles a day. On my off days, I would bike 30 plus miles a day. So I was exercising so much and eating so little. So you can imagine I got very thin. My hair fell out. I was so cold. And I mean, I'm talking Tennessee humidity, middle of summer, I had on a North Face. I was extremely cold. So I'm kind of going to stop there, and then as we get a little further into the PowerPoints, I'll kind of work myself into a case study. Is that okay? Any questions about my story so far? I'm very open. I actually like the show. Okay, introduction. The hypothalamus in the brain is what regulates your appetite. It tells you when you're hungry, when you're not hungry, and when you're full. So eating behaviors are usually influenced by society and culture. So society and culture tells us what's desirable, which is unfortunate. So you've got, the Victoria's Secret models and, everything's edited, Photoshop, whatever. We let society influence how we think of ourselves. Back many years ago, if you had some meat on your bones or whatever you want to call it, that was desirable because it showed that you had money and you were able to eat the good food, and that was, again, influenced by society. I think we're doing a little bit better with the positive body movement, but we have a long way to go. Anorexia nervosa, and I don't know if I mentioned before, obviously I was diagnosed with anorexia nervosa. That was the eating disorder that I had. It's really prevalent. When you look at 1% of the population, that's a pretty big number. Even though it's just 1%, that's a lot of people. Typically does affect young girls and women 12 to 30 years old, but I have seen it, and it's growing. It does affect men. Men are really good at hiding it. Men won't sleep, and they'll exercise all night in their room, and you'll never even know. Or they're just, I just think they're better at hiding it. That's just my opinion. And then you've got bulimia nervosa, and that is even a much bigger number, 4% of the population. It occurs typically in late adolescence and early adulthood, and primarily occurs in societies that focus on thinness, and that is the society that we live in. Obesity is also covered in this chapter. It's a body mass index of 30 or greater. And this is a huge number. 68.5% of adult Americans are overweight, and 35% of these are in the obese range. I'm having to write my exit paper for my master's program right now, and I chose to do it on childhood obesity. And we are truly in an obesity epidemic. And this is kind of a side note, but with screen time and all that, it's getting worse if we don't change anything. Okay. Anorexia nervosa. This is characterized by a morbid fear of obesity. Symptoms include gross discoloration of body image, preoccupation with food, and refusal to eat. Most people with anorexia nervosa know how many calories are in a single piece of Cheerio. I mean, they are preoccupied with food, and they know everything about it. Weight loss is extreme, usually more than 15% of expected weight. Other symptoms include hypothermia, which I experienced, bradycardia, hypotension, edema, vertigo, and a variety of other metabolic changes. So what happens is, when you're not giving your body what it needs, it's only going to take care of what it has to. It cares about your brain, your heart, and your kidneys, and that's about it. It does not care about anything else. So it don't care if you're cold. It don't care if your hair falls out. So that's why we see those symptoms. Your body is taking care of what it has to. If this problem is not fixed, your body eventually doesn't even take care of what it has to. This is very, very serious, and I mean ultimately it can result in death if it's not fixed. Amenorrhea, anybody know what that is? Yeah. So it's the absence or abnormal menstruation. It's usually seen, one of the first symptoms, it's usually seen before the weight loss. In a girl, her period will change. Again, an obsession with food. And anxiety and depression are very common with anorexia nervosa. And this is just a picture of the distorted body image. And this is real. You see, they look in the mirror and they see someone much bigger, so they want to keep losing weight because they're seeing someone who, it's really not them, but they're seeing someone much bigger. Okay, bulimia nervosa. It is episodic, uncontrolled, compulsive, rapid ingestion of large quantities of food over a short period of time. So, and that's called binging. So you're eating as much food as quick as you can in a very short period of time. And it is followed by getting rid of the excess calories. Purging is usually what we reference that as, self-induced vomiting. It can also be the misuse of laxatives, diuretics, or enemas. Fasting and excessive exercise usually occur with that as well, or can. So the thing about bulimia is most of the time these people are within normal range, normal weight range, so you would never even know. Can they be overweight? Yes. Can they be underweight? Yes. But most of the time when you think of this, you're going to think of normal weight. Depression, anxiety, and substance abuse are not uncommon, so they are common that can go with bulimia nervosa as well. And if you have someone that is purging or abusing laxatives, what are you going to be worried about? Good. Dehydration, electrolyte imbalances. This can really cause a lot of problems. So, question, which assessment finding would the nurse expect in clients diagnosed with bulimia? They are below normal weight. They binge when they experience hunger. They will be highly motivated to seek help, or they are within their normal weight range. Good. This is also a biggie with bulimia nervosa, tooth enamel deterioration. So the emesis is acidic and it will cause erosion of the tooth enamel. So there is a picture of what that could look like. And once your enamel's gone, it's gone. So when you think of bulimia nervosa, these are the 4 things that need to come to your mind. Binging, purging, normal weight, and electrolyte imbalances such as hypokalemia. Any questions so far up to this point? And we'll go over that sheet to make sure y'all have the right answers. So predisposing factors for anorexia nervosa and bulimia nervosa. Genetics is actually a big deal with these. So anorexia is more common among sisters and mothers. And there has been suggestion of chromosomal leakage. I've already been told that if I have a daughter, she shouldn't be in dance or cheer because it really is genetic. Neuroendocrine abnormalities. So if your hypothalamus is what regulates your hunger, if there was dysfunction in the hypothalamus, that could cause some problems. That's what that is saying. Neurochemical influences. Bulimia can be associated with serotonin and norepinephrine. And then with anorexia, it may be associated with endogenous opioids. So those are the biological influences. And then for the psychodynamic influences, it suggests that very, very early in life in the mother-infant interaction, it could end up in the late ego development, unfulfilled sense of separation, individuation for both anorexia and bulimia. Family influences. This is important for especially anorexia, but conflict avoidance. The families may promote it and not necessarily meaning to, in an effort to avoid if there's relationship problems between mom and dad. They may be promoting it unknowingly because they just want to avoid that conflict. And then the sick child can become the problem for them, and then they get to ignore their problems. So that really can happen. But this is the biggie right here. Elements of power and control. And when I told my story, you probably mentioned that I use the word control a lot, because that is a lot of times ultimately what it comes down to. So if the child is being criticized, or if the parents are seeking perfectionism, that can end up in a loss of control. Now, for me, my parents didn't care. If I tried my best, that's all they cared about. That my mom wanted me to make a B so bad. I put that pressure on myself. But a lot of times it can come from parental influence. And then this is just kind of continued. Again, power and control. They can begin to doubt the parents, and distorted eating patterns may develop. And so basically, to sum it up, what ends up happening is the conflict avoidance leads to an eating disorder as a way to control. Okay, we'll touch on obesity. Again, BMI of 30 is considered obese, and it has contributed to increases in morbidity and mortality. You all know this. Greater risk for hypertension, stroke, heart disease, diabetes, all kinds of stuff. Obesity can contribute to. So when you think of obesity and eating disorders, what's going to come to mind is binge eating disorder. The DSM-5 identifies binge eating disorder as an eating disorder that can lead to obesity because the individual binges a large amount of food, just like bulimia nervosa, but this is what you need to know. The difference is that the individual does not engage in behaviors to get rid of the excess calories. So they're still consuming large amounts of food, but it's not being gotten rid of. So this is why that can lead to obesity. The diagnostic criteria for binge eating disorder is a sense of lack of control, eating more rapidly than normal, and feeling guilty after overeating, and you need to know these. I have a very close friend of mine, and she had binge eating disorder, and I remember her feeling so guilty after overeating. Predisposing factors for obesity. Genetics is also a biggie. Most of the time, if the kid's parents are obese, the child's going to be obese as well. There's also some studies that show that twins can also be a biological influence. And then physiological factors such as, again, if the hypothalamus is not functioning appropriately, hypothyroidism, decreased insulin production, and increased cortisol production. So like if you are stressed, it really can influence you. And then of course, lifestyle factors, increased calorie intake and sedentary lifestyle. Any questions so far? So there's a bunch of possibilities of nursing diagnoses for eating disorders. You're going to think imbalanced nutrition, less than the body requires, could be related to refusal to eat, deficient fluid volume, risk for or actual related to whatever it's related to. Increased or self-induced vomiting, laxative abuse, decreased fluid intake. Ineffective denial related to delayed ego development and fear of losing the only aspect of control. That again is a biggie. Imbalanced nutrition more than the body requires related to compulsive eating. Disturbed body image or low self-esteem. That can be related to dysfunctional family, dissatisfaction with body, etc. Anxiety related to feeling of hopelessness and lack of control over life events. So here's another question. A client is 5'8" and weighs 105 pounds. The client has been taking laxatives daily and self-induces vomiting after eating. What is the priority nursing diagnosis for the client? Ineffective denial, disturbed body image, low self-esteem, or imbalanced nutrition less than the body requires. Good. All these are true, more than likely, for this person, but your priority would be imbalanced nutrition because that can compromise so many other aspects, especially if they're abusing laxatives or purging or whatever. You're going to have some dehydration and electrolyte imbalances. So outcomes, you want the client to achieve at least 80% of their expected body weight, vital signs, lab work within normal limits, and verbalize the importance of adequate nutrition. Verbalizes knowledge regarding consequences of fluid loss, such as dehydration. You want them to be able to know that. Verbalizes events that precipitate anxiety and demonstrates techniques for its reduction. Verbalizes ways that he or she may gain control. Expresses interest in the welfare of others and less preoccupation with their own appearance. Verbalizes the image as fat as a misconception, and that's with the distorted body image, that they would be able to realize that that wasn't accurate. And then for obesity, you want them to have established a healthy eating pattern and progressing towards their desired goal, and verbalize plans for future maintenance of weight control. Nursing interventions, you're aimed at restoring nutritional balance, whether that's for anorexia nervosa or obesity. You want that nutritional balance. Emphasis is placed on helping the client gain control over life situations rather than inappropriate eating behaviors. And self-esteem and positive body image are promoted in ways that relate to other aspects than appearance. I'm currently mentoring this little girl, and she's just beautiful. And I just want to tell her she's beautiful because she is so beautiful. But there's so much other things to talk about than how you look, So it's important to remember that as well, not to just walk in and the first thing comment on their appearance. Client and family education. So you're gonna begin by educating them on the nature of the illness, the causes, the side effects, what is obesity, etc. And then for management, you're going to teach them about nutrition, and then here again, a biggie, ways to help them feel in control, importance of expressing fears rather than holding them in, effective coping strategies, that's a biggie. You're never going to stop problems from happening, so you have to help them how to deal with them. And that is through effective coping strategies. They have medicines, proper administration, educate them on the side effects, relaxation techniques, and some problem-solving skills. And then for obesity, you want to help them with a nutritious plan, help them read food labels. That is a biggie. I have a nutrition minor. That's kind of funny, I guess, but I really took it for granted that people don't know how to read food labels. So, you know, like when you go to the gas station, I'm not talking about like the individual serving chips and not the big bag, but kind of the medium bag like you typically see at a gas station. I had a room full of people that I was educating them on, and they all said that that bag had 140 calories, every one of them. There was 2.5 servings. I mean, so just don't take it for granted and assume that people know, because they don't. And reading a food label is biggie, especially if you're trying to lose or gain weight. They need to know what that stuff means. Realistic weight loss plan. You got shows like The Biggest Loser. In the first week they lose 20 pounds. It's not realistic and it's really not safe. So they need small, realistic goals. And then a planned program of physical activity. Again, I know for myself personally, if I'm like, hey, I might go to the gym later, I ain't going. You have to say on Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6 o'clock, I'm going to go to the gym. It has to be pretty precise and planned out. And then there's support services, Weight Watchers, Overeaters Anonymous, National Association of Anorexia Nervosa and Associated Disorders, and National Eating Disorder Association. And this isn't in the book, but this is just kind of FYI. On Facebook, there is a support group for everything. This is not always good. People get on there and post stuff, and they don't know what they're talking about. Then you got these people that don't know any better, and they believe it. So that, I mean, especially in today's time where everybody has Facebook, everybody has social media, we really need to be educating on that. Dr. Google sometimes don't know everything. Treatment. Okay, so we'll start with behavior modification. This is issues that are related to control. And for the program to be successful, the client must perceive that he or she is in control of the treatment. Personally, this is what helped me, because they're not going to take that control from you. They're going to help you shift it into something that is appropriate control. And then you've got the Maudsley approach, and it is an evidence-based treatment approach for the treatment of teens with anorexia nervosa, and this involves the family of each step of the process. And we'll kind of go over that more here in just a second. So how do you know if behavior modification has worked? You have to let the client have input in their care plan, give them choices, allow them privileges with weight gain, such as rewards. We just use it for kids, but reward system is great for a lot of people. And the client has control over eating, exercise, self-induced vomiting, and again, goals and a system of rewards are helpful. And you have to let the client have input on those. Don't decide it for them. It's kind of a mutual thing. So individual therapy, that is what it says. It's an individual going through therapy. And then family therapy, involving educating the family about the disorder, assesses the family's impact on maintaining the disorder, and assists in methods to promote adaptive functioning by the client. So this is really big in anorexia nervosa, adding the client, or the patient to the treatment plan. To the family to the treatment plan. I'll get there eventually. Again, it's especially useful in anorexia nervosa. It is important to involve the family and to educate the family on family patterns and all aspects of the disease. And then, there might be some other things that need to be addressed, such as conflict avoidance, struggling with issues of power. All that would be involved with the Maudsley approach. So, concerning medications, there are no medications for eating disorders. The only thing you can really do is treat for medications. The only thing you can really do is treat the anxiety or depression that may come with it. So here are a list of medications for anorexia nervosa and bulimia nervosa, such as Prozac, Zyprexa, Elavil. Here's the one for binge eating disorder. You need to know that. And obesity, Prozac, CNS stimulants, and Pintramine. Probably a lot of people have heard of that.
Nursing school. I don't hate it. I just don't like it at all. And it's terrible.
Any questions about chapter 22? None at all. Okay.